friends. Thanks for joining us. Do us a favor, starting off slow, nice and easy. Holy pace, brother. Pick it up.
Wow.
Do us a favor. Smash that subscribe button just down below. We can't thank y'all enough for all the support. Benny, pick up the pace because I can't. Where can they find us on social media?
Yeah, find us at Ray Benny Sports. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Check us out also on Blue Sky, Reddit, and Discord if you want to chat. And don't forget, leave us a rating on your favorite podcast provider.
Let's get right into it. Blue Bomber Talk brought to you by Fahrenheit Airbrushing. Stand out on the ice, pavement, field, or in the stands with a custom airbrushed helmet, goalie mask, or any type of project. A local Manitoba business with affordable solutions. Check out Fahrenheit Airbrushing on Facebook or call them at 204-891-7431.
And make sure you tell them that Ray and Benny sent you.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what do you give the Bombers / Cal Walters on the first day of free agency?
I'm going to go with a 4. Nothing too flashy here. Nothing too exciting. A lot of depth, I feel like here. And them banking on some guys that, showed potential, but haven't quite got there yet. And they're hoping these wide receivers that they're signing, hey, they're going to take that next step or kind of fulfill what they've shown, promise and all that. Peyton Logan, hey, yes.
Shown, I see what you did there.
Yes. Peyton Logan, fantastic. Bunch of Canadian DBs as well, adding to some depth there and some wide receivers. So good moves in that kind of sense. But the losses so far, and only a few of them have really been confirmed yet, kind of outweigh what the Bombers have done so far with the guys they signed today.
I'll give Kyle Walters a 5.7. Yes, they lost a lot of talent. Yes, a lot of depth signings. Some possibly sneaky good players, like you said, and receivers. Also, if they can stay healthy. Like, if one of them becomes an 800-yard receiver, which quite possibly that could happen if they stay healthy, that's a good thing. So I don't think it has to be a replacement for Kenny Lawler, which I'll get into talking to about replacing Kenny Lawler later on. But I think, I don't know what they're doing if there's a storm right now on the boat of the cap. Like, does this bring up the question, is the quarterback's salary right now a bit of a hindrance on hitting that free agent market? Maybe I'm overstepping my bounds as a fan, but that's all I am as a fan. And it kind of makes you wonder if, like, there's not much action going on. They're losing a lot of core players. Is that a factor?
Do you remember what Zach Claris's contract is?
I
thought it wasn't too bad. Is it that much? Sorry, I'm
maybe
trying to look it up quickly here right now.
I'm horrible with numbers. Yeah, you search that out. It was just a question I was wondering, because like a lot of Bomber Nation,
600 says here.
Yeah, so like as a lot of Bomber Nation, I'm like, why aren't they making some moves to replace some of this talent? And maybe they do have confidence in the younger talent coming up in the system, and it looks like they are definitely going to depend on Danny McManus as the head of U.S. scouting on bringing in some new talent to fill up some holes there. Some holes we'll talk about soon, but I'll give him a 5.3. I think there's some sneaky good Canadians there. So yeah, 5.3 out of 10.
Well, this other thing is showing actually only 433 right now. So
there you go.
So it's got to be somewhere in between there. Maybe the 600 was a previous contract, and this is the last one that he signed, kind of thing. But because Nathan Rourke, it says here right now, is the highest at 600.
Okay, thank you.
So Chad Kelly comes in at second. Yeah, so 433. So that doesn't seem bad.
No.
Right? And so it does show that they would have money available. Like Willie Jefferson was reported for 200. So you're thinking he's probably the next highest paid guy, right?
Yeah.
Stanley Bryan's probably not getting 200. Who else would be? Dalton Schoen, we know, is under that.
Not
and
Neufeld.
That's probably... Yeah, Neufeld probably, yeah, exactly. Neufeld not. They didn't pay Dobson over 200. So it's like they figure, okay, we got Zach Claris, our next guy is Willie Jefferson. Everyone else is going to come out under 200, right? I can't think of another guy that would actually be making over 200
So
on that
then
roster right now.
you're making it sound like it's pretty rosy, that they should be in good salary cap space to make moves. So then again, why aren't they making any moves or
Yeah,
any significant moves? I shouldn't say any moves because I believe there are some sneaky good ones, like we mentioned, but I don't know.
well, like okay, so Peyton Logan, right? They
Yeah.
signed him. I doubt they're paying him that much or too
No.
much. Great. I like that signing because we need a kick returner, and I like the fact that he can come in and play a different role on the offense as well. Not a different role, like a running back role, but different than Oliveira kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? Then Jareth Stern and Reggie White, two wide receivers who, like what we talked about, potential, but also injuries, right? The
Mm-hmm.
DBs they signed, where are they? Josh Haggerty, uh, the guy from Montreal, Brock Guanluck. Okay, I butchered that one probably, right?
I don't mind that, dude. Good special
Yeah,
teamer.
exactly. These guys could all be potential sneaky good players, but they're
Yeah.
probably not making that much. So yeah, where is the money going? And like you say, either Danny McManus has picked out a bunch of guys that he is like, hey Kyle, hey Mike, these guys are going to be great. We don't need to go out and sign this guy or that guy or this. We're good.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It's interesting to see. I expected more out of them, and I know free agency is a crapshoot, right? You can go out, you can go Edmonton Elks crazy right now, right? Saskatchewan went kind of crazy. It helped a little bit last year, but it didn't work out altogether, right?
Yeah.
Elks this year is that team that went nuts. We'll see how that works for them, trying to get these guys to gel in one season. It doesn't necessarily work, but the CFL, you do need to use free agency a little bit to fill in those spots, to get those star players. We saw when the Bombers went and got Adam Bighill, Andrew Harris,
Yeah.
right? They brought these guys in and look what it did for them. So I'm looking for one of those guys to be brought in, to pair with Willie Jefferson on D, because right now I'm concerned about Kyrie Wilson. I'm concerned, Tony Jones, is he going to follow up that season last year and be just as good as he was? That linebacker crew, it's big, right? You need to have a good front seven in the CFL or you're in trouble. So yeah, I don't know where the money is. I don't know where it's going unless there's contracts we don't know about, or pay structures. Even Chris Streveler coming back. How much are you paying him? You're not obviously probably paying him as much as you did last year, because if you did, that's a ridiculous signing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So I think you just went through half of your agenda for the rest of the show. So I'll just go on right now. Which announced Bomber signing
sorry.
excites you most? I'm going to go with the mentioned Peyton Logan. He really brings some versatility to the backfield, and he's a great special teams threat, which the Bombers needed because it didn't quite work out with Lucky Whitehead, especially with the drops later on in the season, and the Grey Cup wasn't nice. And of course, Reggie White, if healthy, that could be a great signing for the Bombers. Again, he doesn't have to replace Kenny Lawler, but there's some Kenny Lawler elements to this guy's game. He's a target with length. He can stretch the field. He has a wide catch radius, and not known as the best route runner, but you already have that in Schoen. So you're bringing in a guy who can possibly open up underneath and open up some space for Dalton Schoen, which also Kenny Lawler did. So you'll have him at a assumed lower salary than that they'd have to pay Kenny Lawler.
Yeah, I agree. Like I mentioned it before already, with Peyton Logan being the guy that excites me the most here out of these guys that they've signed so far. Return, like when we had Janarian Grantman, it was exciting every time there was a punt or a kickoff, right? Because you knew this guy could take it back. You knew he could possibly fumble as well.
Yes.
Grant had a few of those, but the potential for him taking one back was outweighed the fumble, like the excitement of all that. And last year we didn't have that with, I can't even remember the guys we had before, Lucky Whitehead, that tried to do it. They did their best, all together. But yeah, hopefully this guy can get us some great field position on punts and kick returns. And like I said, add something to the offense. And I do agree with you on Reggie White. Like he had potential. He had a good year back in 2022. But then injuries, 2023 was a write-off. He came back last year, had a decent year. Maybe with a bigger role, he'll be able to build on those numbers. So we're gonna need it, right? We got Dembski, Schoen, and Weedfall Clarcius coming back. So now you added two more guys here. Plus, they added that receiver Gavin Cobb, who is from the U of M as well. So getting a couple local guys in there as well. So it'll be exciting to see what these guys do. But yeah, Peyton Logan for me for sure.
Is there a hole in the Bomber roster that concerns you? Position
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, what are we doing at I mean, it's always D line for me too, but safety, what are we doing there? Like what's the answer there? We're going with one of the Hallett brothers back there. We lost your guy, Brian Cole.
That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. Like Ted Govea is going nuts right now. And that's one dude I really want. I thought he would be part of the future plans of the Bombers. I really thought he was a dynamic playmaker, and I thought they wouldn't have to overpay for him, but Ted Govea. Ted Govea.
Well, yeah, he's taken Lawler, Garbett, Dobson, Brian Cole, Miles Fox, all those guys that were all basically their starters. I mean, Cole started here and there, Fox a little bit, but Garbett by the end of it was the starter. Lawler,
Garbett.
Dobson, so
Losing Garbett and Haba. Oh,
yeah, and then you lose some depth there. Like there's three D line guys that are gone right there, right?
yeah.
So, and you need to fill their spots. I know they brought in, again, I'm not going to, Brock. I'll just leave it at Brock because I'll say
He
his
went to
last
U of
name
M,
wrong.
yes?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So exciting again, but, I feel like they need more there. And now I'm seeing all these guys, D lines getting signed everywhere. Sean Oakman just got signed.
Yeah.
Lanier just got signed by Toronto. AC Leonard's still out there, so there's an option. But yeah, most of these guys are starting to go. So there's not a lot out there. So like again, Danny McManus, Kyle Walters, whatever, your scouting caps better be full this year.
D-line depth. And it's been shown. We as Bomber fans have seen it in the past 3 Grey Cups, what a deep D-line can do to a very good O-line. The Bombers have been known for a very good O-line for a long time, and they were getting it together come the season's end. That's why they went on an 8-game winning streak. Not the only reason, but the O-line was just playing great ball.
Yeah,
And
especially if they want
teams
to
like
keep rushing
Toronto
free like
and
they were, right?
Montreal keep bringing people, fresh people that can blitz Zach Caleros and not let him get comfortable deep into the fourth quarter.
Yeah. Toronto's got their work cut out for them. They've lost a lot of their D line.
Jeez.
Quite a bit.
And even the Bombers, the depth on O-line, when they
Yeah.
could confidently play a heavy set 6-man offensive line. And I don't think I'm not saying they can't this season, but
who do we got there? Eli Tui, right?
yes,
Wallace,
yes,
Randolph, who came in last year. So
yes.
there's 3 guys and there's that. I'm not what started with a V. Michael, the American guy. Yeah.
Vanderpool.
So yeah.
Vanderpool.
So I mean, you got the draft coming up. You're going to look for more guys in there, but again, the draft guys usually don't come in and start right away. So
To the Bombers, yeah. What position are you most excited for at this point? I'm going to say linebackers. I really love the combination of Cramdy, Tony Jones, and I'm kind of leaning towards Jonathan Jones. I think he's in a great position to take the opportunity that's given to him. Not that I don't want to see Kyrie Wilson succeed. Like, people must think in Bomber Nation that I have a hate for Kyrie Wilson. Bro, I just thought that he probably wouldn't play because of the seriousness of his injury in consecutive seasons to the lower. Like, I just thought, and he surprised me. And unfortunately, he got injured again. I have limited knowledge in sports. Any which way. I just think it's a great opportunity for Jonathan Jones to take a spot. And I think when he had to replace Winston McManus in Toronto, he was more than capable that they kept him in the playoffs that year when they beat the Bombers, and he made plays in the Grey Cup against the Bombers. And this dude's, 27, 28? There's years left. So I'm excited about that combination.
yeah, that'll be interesting. They got some depth there with him, Jones, Kyrie Wilson, and Cramdy kind of thing. So hopefully you got a good, decent rotation in there. And again, it worked out with Tony Jones grabbing him last year after he was cut by the Elks, bringing in a guy that's hungry and looking to become a starter or make some noise still in the league, right? I mean, they officially today, with Bighill gone, so you need to find a new guy in there that's going to come in and not fill his shoes, but can kind of fill his shoes, right? I'm going back to my theme, most excited for running backs because I'm excited with Brady Oliveira and Peyton Logan now at that position. Like I said before, Oliveira and Augustine were almost the same guy to me. Augustine was a little bit quicker. Oliveira was like a bowling ball kind of guy. But to me, this is two different guys, and it adds a little bit of dynamic to hopefully Hogan's defense. That we didn't even talk about. We finally got that OC, right? Or did we talk about that last week? I guess this was last week already, right?
For sure.
Yeah. So,
Something like that.
so to see what he can do, right? We saw what Lapo did and Buck Pierce did with maybe Dembski coming out of that backfield. Maybe that'll now be left for Peyton Logan, and you can let Dembski just be a receiver because he's getting up there in age. He doesn't need to be taking those hits just past the O line and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what they do with those guys.
Man, when you said Hogan, I just think Hulk Hogan. And before, I used to think of him slamming Andre, and now I think of him getting his ass booed on Raw. That was crazy. Wasn't that crazy? Oh.
That is hilarious. I just saw a picture actually just right before we started of him actually picking up Andre. Like when he body slammed him. I don't know what I was looking at, but I just saw it. But yeah. And
getting
then
his
him
ass
getting booed.
booed.
From up here to down here.
Excuse me. I don't mean to laugh. Who is the biggest non-Blue Bomber free agent confirmation so far in free agency? That's confirmed. I don't even know. Just who cares if it's confirmed or not? Just say what you want.
Yeah, I like Deshaun Amos to Hamilton. That's a big move for me because they have Bo Levi Mitchell, who in that offense played well last year. If he can continue on, again, that team's going to be based on that. We saw Bo Levi Mitchell suck for 2 years and then come in and throw up almost 6,000 yards last year. They didn't make the playoffs, but partly was that because their defense wasn't very good.
Yeah.
So now picking up a guy like Deshaun Amos, I think that's a good move for Hamilton because they're getting Lawler, they're getting Dobson, they're getting all these guys. They need to make sure that defense is also good to be able to make some noise. So I like that one so far.
I'm going to say I like Micah Awe.
Yeah.
Going back to BC. I think he's going to be a playmaker because they have a good D-line. Like they're number 2 in sacks. And he's playing with what's his name? Ben Hladek. And that dude's a tackle machine, and so is he. So I think that's a huge, he's a solid linebacker, brings good leadership to a team that could be a contender. Especially if Rourke gets back to MOP form. Oh, they're going to be good.
They got Mazzoli now too anyway, so maybe he comes in.
Hey, storybook. Storybook. Hey, maybe the storybook is Terry Wilson or Shea Patterson.
Or Chris Traveler.
Yeah.
Or Jake Dogala.
Wow. The QB room.
You don't like that depth or what?
Hey, we haven't complained about it. I don't know if that's a good thing anyway, Dre.
I would have taken Mazzoli over all those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Ooh. I want someone there that they can go in and put. I mean, yes, Mazzoli is hit and miss. He gets hurt. But I don't have faith in any of those guys behind Collaros coming in and winning games for the Bombers if Collaros gets hurt. So.
No. Who do you think is the most overhyped signing of day one? Not to say that they'll have a bad season, but, who's getting the attention that you say, it might not get there?
Probably not doing this right because it was hard just with the guys that have signed so far. So maybe not overhyped or anything. But to me, the Micah Awe signing is kind of odd because you do have some good linebackers already in BC with, like you said, Ben Hladek, Josh Woods, and again, I'm going to say this wrong, Iendi Ely. Those guys are there. And BC, now that you signed Awe, I think they signed another linebacker too here today. So to me, that one doesn't make total sense to me. Like, why spend that money on Awe unless you're getting rid of one of these other guys? Because you're probably paying Awe more than you would pay these guys. So it was an interesting one to me. We'll see how it works out. But yes, Micah Awe is obviously a very good player. A bit of a head case, right? Didn't he get suspended last year or whatever? Or some very dirty hits or fine last year?
Of course.
But yeah, it was just an odd signing for that position for me.
I think I messed this one up because it hasn't been confirmed.
Oh,
I picked Kenny Lawler.
Yeah, we know that's happening.
yeah, and it's good because he wrote the email. He wrote the goodbye thing. Wouldn't that be weird, eh? Wouldn't that be weird? And it's just like sort of be honest, but it was a bit of a disappointment as a primary receiver, especially when he was on his own. And not saying that he's not talented, like he can burn it up on, it just didn't happen in Winnipeg. Didn't have a 100-yard game until week 17. I didn't notice. Since the pandemic, he's not played more than 13 games. So, and again, it's not a shot on the talent. It just didn't work out. It
Yeah.
did, unfortunately.
And like you say, like coming into Winnipeg, came back a lot of fanfare. Ended up missing what 7, 8 games that first year because of the DUI case,
Yeah,
and then last year getting hurt, so he missed a bunch too.
consecutive
So
games.
yeah, so he never really got fully into a whole season with the Bombers. He put up some good numbers in the games that he played. I mean, he was huge for us in the playoffs last year, right?
Yeah,
In the West Final,
yeah.
kind of thing.
His
So
last 2 games in the regular season were great.
yeah, so he had his moments, and he's a very good receiver. Obviously, for me, we'll see what happens down in Hamilton. I mean, again, we saw the Bombers go nuts with wide receivers paying all Schoen, Lawler, blah, blah, blah. It didn't work.
Nope.
I'm not a huge fan of it. And maybe it'll work for somebody, but I'd rather spend that money on either your O line or your D line or your front seven or your D kind of thing. You know, that's
Preaching
what
to the
we
choir.
just you just saw the Super Bowl, right? I mean, how did they win? How did the Eagles win with that suffocating D? They
It
shut
was
down
crazy.
Mahomes,
It was
and they
crazy.
got at him. They sacked him, rushing 4 guys, for the most part. So it's just like, yeah, I don't even think they blitzed. I think they just rushed for the whole Super Bowl. So that's what's going to win you in the end, especially if it's a shitty day outside and it's where's this or the Grey Cup's here. I was going to say where's the Grey
Hell
Cup?
yeah.
It's going to be cold out, weather-wise. It's going to be tough to play outside. So the wide receivers very little. And last year was in BC, and they still didn't really have guys going crazy at the wide receiver position.
Unless they're playing in the dome.
Yes, which they did in the dome, but still the Bombers didn't do that great. Remember?
Yeah, well, Schoen was out.
Yeah, he was.
And who knows what the hell. Oh, don't even. What's the most underrated sneaky signing of day one or free agency so far? I'm going to go back to BC and I'm going to go back to the linebackers. I really do like Adam O'Clair and that
That was the
sign.
other one. Yes.
He could be a quality Canadian linebacker, a great Canadian combination with him and Ben Hladik. He played solid against the Bombers. Put up an interception, I think. And then in the last matchup, he put up a few tackles. So I'm a fan of that signing. I like depth at linebacker, and we're going to be talking about linebackers soon. Man, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a linebacker.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's 5 guys right there at BC linebackers that you can play, right? So
Yeah.
be interesting to see what they do unless they get rid of some of these other guys. But I'm going to go with Saskatchewan, actually, who haven't been very active so far. But they signed Philippe Gagnon from Montreal, grabbing another Canadian O lineman, which now
Yeah.
gives them the potential, if it all works out, that they can play only 2 Americans on that O line, which is huge. To have American players at different positions. I know for the most part, Americans on the O line are probably more seasoned, probably a little bit better. But if you get 3 solid Canadian players to be able to play on that O line, that definitely helps with playing nationals at different positions and stuff like that. So that's an interesting move for me for them.
Yeah. And I think that's actually looking back at losing Liam Dobson. I think it is a risk to put a high value contract on a Canadian interior lineman when you could possibly get an American to play that position at a much lower. The problem is you got to find a Canadian starter elsewhere. And I
Yeah.
think that's where the Bombers, I'm like, where's that Canadian starter? And yes, Cam Lawson is coming back. But when you lose a quality all-star Canadian starter like Dobson and like Tyrell Ford, that's hard to replace.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
for
easier
sure.
to replace an American receiver, but
Yeah.
it's hard to replace that starting quality all-star Canadian.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the thing, the all-star part of it right there, right?
Yeah. The
It's
racial
easy to find
breakers.
it's easy to find that Canadian player to pop in there, but will he play at the same level as Dobson did or Tyrell Ford did, right?
Yeah.
But again, like we said, both those guys probably got over 200, right? They weren't probably paying anyone more than they paid Willie Jefferson,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate, but you know, again, we don't know the finances. We don't know where their other cap is at the moment, but they did get an extra 400, right? The CFL raised the salary cap. So
Whew. Speaking of linebackers, Well, we weren't speaking of linebackers, but we're kind of before. We got this goodbye tribute video online to Adam Bighill. Well deserved. Great Winnipeg linebacker. Where would you rank Adam Bighill on the all-time Blue Bomber linebacker list?
Yeah, I mean, Tyrone Jones, I think is number one for me. No problem there. Greg Battle after that, I believe, would still come in at number two for me. James West, yeah, I'd still pick James West, I think, over, even though Adam Bighill came in and in his 6 years won 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards for the Bombers, helped the Bombers win 2 Grey Cups. Stats wise, probably lean a little bit in favor of James West. I'd probably put Adam Bighill right there after that. Number 4, top 5 for sure. But yeah, probably number 4.
Bombers have had some great linebackers. Holy cow.
Yeah.
And
a lot before our time, really, right? So
it's been crazy. Paul Randolph also was a solid Winnipeg linebacker. I'm gonna have to give Biggie flowers on this one. I definitely have Greg Battle as number 1, multiple time Defensive Player of the Year award. Tyrone, and that game that he had in the 1990 Grey Cup, crazy. Tyrone Jones number 2, just a sack master, and I put Bighill at number 3. He's number 2 all time in tackles with the Bombers. Defensive Player of the Year with the Bombers. And that's why I put him slightly ahead of James West. And that was a hard one for me to pick because y'all know I was a huge fan of Tyrone Jones and James West. Those are my childhood heroes. They were staples of the Bombers defense and made me want to play defense. But I do have to give my flowers to Biggie. Talk about, we talk about salaries earlier and the effect on the salary cap. Coming out of the pandemic, dude took over a 6-figure pay cut.
Yeah.
To stay with the Bombers, and that's the year he won a Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, 2021.
So, much love to James West. He was great that he was an interview. Check out our archives. That was a fun ass interview. But props to Biggie. I'm going to put him at number 3, and I think that's more than respectable in the company that he's in. Tyrone Jones and Greg Battle.
Yeah, for sure. Can't go wrong there at all. And obviously there was a bunch of good linebackers, before we really started getting into the Bombers that we didn't get to see play, before the 80s and all that stuff. So yeah, you know what? Leave them in the comments below and stuff. Leave your linebacker rankings as well, because there's guys we didn't get to see, but they were great. So yeah, you can't go wrong with Adam Bighill at number 3 or anywhere there. He did a lot for the Bombers. He helped turn this franchise around. He came in 2018. They won the Grey Cup in 2019. He was Absolutely. One of the leaders on that defense. And then he came back again and won it in 2021. Unfortunately, the last couple of years haven't gone his way due to injuries. He didn't want either of those seasons to end the way they did for him. But you got to give the guy props, and that's the thing. You talk about the pay cut and all that stuff and the way the Bombers kind of ended up, moving on from him. Still, he leaves a sour taste in my mouth.
Absolutely.
For a guy that did so much that he did for this franchise in this city, so I wish they would have handled that better again. But again, thanks to Bighill for everything that he did for this franchise and helped him turn around.
Wow. CFL great Hall of Famer guaranteed. Guaranteed. He's going to be in that Ring of Honor as well.
Yeah, we're just talking about stats that he did with the Bombers, like his career in BC on top of that. But yeah, he should definitely be in that Ring of Honor at some point for the Bombers.
In due time.
Yep.
Benny, you have anything to say to our friends?
You know what? Just thanks a lot for listening. Don't forget, subscribe and follow, and have a good week.
I've noticed a lot of the show I've been doing this. Like I've been thinking about shit. Like it's important. Any which way.
Deep thinker, eh?
Yeah. And in the famous words of Laird Hamilton, make sure your worst enemy doesn't live between your own 2 ears. Have I used that quote before?
No, I don't think I've heard that one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, back in the day, I was like, I used to switch them up. Yeah, it's not bad, eh? I used to switch them up. I was like, did I use this one? And I was like, I don't got time to look back in the episodes.
No. Yeah, I mean, if you used it a long time ago, maybe. But
How many episodes?
I haven't heard that one recently. 160, 70, maybe more. With the interviews, everything, yeah, it's quite a bit. Getting close to 200.
That's a lot of beer. That's a lot of beer.
Yeah, let's go. Let's get those subscribers up. Let's keep it going.
That's more than 200 beers. Because for sure, I've had nights where I've had more than 2 beers. Y'all can't see me pouring like this, but for sure, there's been nights where I've like, oh, this is a 3-beer night. We're getting into it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's probably like after
Keep
the
it-
Grey Cups.
keep it
you know,
rolling.
last 3 Grey Cups.
Hey, friends and neighbors, don't forget to check us out online on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at Ray Denny Sports. And don't forget to check out our YouTube channel. Leave a like, leave a comment, tell us what you think.